Hello, Uta here with a little spring bouquet. First of all, I'm very excited because I worked to increase my little white violets, and they did increase. And so I hope to see some eaten leaves of the violets soon because, whoops, there's a stem, because the great spangled fritillary caterpillars eat solely violet leaves as their larval food. And because they don't migrate, they just overwinter underneath the leaf mulch or down under a rock. Uh, that means that if you increase your violets, then you will have more great spangled fritillaries. And I have, every summer, I keep a count. I have had more great spangled fritillaries every year, every season for the last 3 years. We'll see what happens. This is wild blue phlox, and it is a lovely wildflower cover. It's related to the tall garden phlox, which it does look quite a lot like, and it smells like it. It's very fragrant. And I try to persuade people to dig up your dandelions, which are a non-native invasive species, and plant these native plants or these useful garden plants instead, because I have seen places in my town where people let dandelions take over their entire front yard. And guess what? They're not that good to eat. They're very bitter. And now this is my first. See how they hang like that? I didn't bring in a leaf to show you, but these are called bleeding hearts. I used to know the Latin name, now I can't remember it. So that's the little garden update. The real purpose of this video is to give you the post office box address of Women's Declaration International, and the main body of this short post will be about a family that is very much traumatized by their adult son who has gone through this ideation path and has gone through hormones and surgeries, despite the fact that he was uh, more than a decade before diagnosed with autism. And the affirmers, the psychologists, surgeons, and all of those people in that field of whatever you want to call it, transgender affirmation, ignored the fact that there is what's called a comorbidity or a coexisting condition. And so, as soon as I've given you, take out your pens or pencils um, for the address of Women's Declaration International. It is headed by Kara Dansky, Kara Dansky, and there are some other people. You can look them up on their website. I interviewed on their YouTube channel, WDI YouTube channel. I think it was titled Mother Erasure by Uta Hagen. Now, their post office box, which I'm going to send them a copy of my memoir, is WDI Post Office Box, P.O. Box 21160. That's 21160, 21160, Washington, D.C., and I don't have the zip code. I forgot to write that down. You can find it on the WDI website. Probably you could just look up that address. I'm sorry. It's a 2000 something. It always is in DC. I'm suggesting that trans widows, friends of trans widows, and the new husbands of trans widows, children of transition, etc., to write to Women's Declaration International because I feel that they speak often about detransitioners, and of course, that is a very serious tragic thing to have happened early in your life, but I feel that in some ways they are ignoring the increasing issues and the increasing numbers of trans widows. And it came to my attention that some women are being restricted on their freedom of speech in their divorce settlements, and this is unconstitutional. Um, yes. Yeah. So I think that, the judges and divorce attorneys who are encouraging a woman to cave and agree never to speak about her ex husband or never to something something or never to say anything about her own life in public or publish. I think that those legal people, they know that is unconstitutional, and if it came to a challenge, that those stipulations would simply be stricken. But there are women who, simply can't afford to relitigate something like that, and this is just wrong, and it needs to be brought to the attention of Women's Declaration International. Um, this whole thing maybe will be more brought into the light of day because of this character named Chris Tyson, who now says that he is so called transitioning. He has a young son. He and his wife, Katie, got secretly divorced, but they supposedly live together. I don't think that the I don't think that this trans widow Katie is understanding the restrictions that her now ex husband is going to try to impose on her life. And she already knows that she has to, in quotes, be nice because of the big platform that her now ex husband has on this Mr. Beast YouTube platform. Um, yeah, okay. I would say really don't let your children watch any kind of material on screens, either television or computer, without your supervision. And show them how to play with all kind of toys and blocks, and find the Play-Doh recipe and really have them playing natural, creative, imaginative play. The influence of the screens is really, really detrimental to children, and it's especially getting detrimental because of the influence of the cross-sex ideology. So, an example of this is a family that I know where the mother will be known in pen name Nell. These are all pen names. Father is Stan. They are approaching my age, and both of their adult children are now either around 30 or in their late 20s. And so the son, the older one with the cross sex ideation issue, is Ren, and the younger sister is Tilly. And I've met Nell, Stan, and Tilly. I never met Ren because Ren apparently is somewhat reclusive, even though the operation is already several years past, and he's supposedly living in his true self female identity. So these are all pen names. I tried to record this yesterday, but because I'm so fond of these people, I started using their real names, so I had to have a do-over. Now, Nell and Stan have been through other traumas. Both of their parents are already deceased. Nell's sister has dealt with uh, being in chemotherapy for some kind of cancer. And Stan actually is just at the end of chemotherapy for either lymphoma or leukemia, and he seems to be coming through with um, the help of very innovative doctors who have initiated this new treatment. I can't remember the name of it, but This was a cancer that, when he got this diagnosis, it sounded rather serious, and we were all really quite worried. Of course, in the uh, process of the treatment, he did lose all of his hair and he lost a lot of weight. And so they have this son who is identifying as female. And there's the complication that since the age of about 10, he had gone through the special education diagnostic process and been diagnosed as on the autism spectrum, very high functioning, as they say, autism, sort of on the Asperger's side of things, which is that there's still a lot of trouble reading people's emotional and social cues, and there's still quite a lot of problems with holding what everyone else would regard as a normal conversation where you are responding appropriately to what others are saying. There's this tendency to be distracted by a kind of tunnel vision type of thinking and what they call black and white thinking. It's either one thing or it's the other. There is no gray in between. And so this guy has had a lot of social issues, a lot of trouble making friends, and so he went down the internet rabbit hole of online pornography and online, I guess you could call it, support groups of males like himself who think maybe I feel different from everyone, and I've always felt different from everyone, and it must be that I actually am born in the wrong body and I was supposed to be female. And because of his black and white thinking and because he was already an adult, um, his parents, who formerly had worked a little bit in theater as young people, went through theater programs in college, and then kind of went into education field and have been working as teachers. They felt this responsibility, they felt a responsibility to affirm him and say, okay, maybe this is what has been bothering you all this time, or else, actually, they've confided to me that they felt that they couldn't suggest that maybe the autism needs to have a little bit more intervention and a little bit higher level of treatment, as he was in his early 20s. But instead, he went down this path of the cross sex ideation. And a few years ago, Nell went out to California with him after taking money out of their pension plans. And they thought, well, he's been having trouble keeping a job and having trouble socially and all this. And so the experts are telling us that this is the only choice. So she went out there and with Ren, and Ren spent whatever those days were in California having that operation, and then had to have Nell, his mother, with him for a few weeks in a sort of a spa-like kind of environment where the recovery of this very serious, genital surgery was happening. And Nell realized right away that this doesn't seem to be happy making. And Ren thought, okay, I'm in the adjustment period, and I have to, become really my full self, and it's going to take some time. And of course, there's a lot of painkillers going on immediately after. But then they go back to their New York City rental apartment, and Ren is supposed to be going on with his next life, in which he demands that everyone call him a her. And when Nell and Stan are away from him, they call him him because he's their son. And Stan actually is still very much grieving as a father, and he can't bear to talk about it at all. And what they've done is invest in a country house a few hours away, and they mostly live there. And it was easier for them during the shutdowns because then they could teach remotely. So this is a traumatized family. Tilly, the younger sister, feels completely burdened by what her brother has imposed on them because she saw that during her father's treatment for cancer that Ren was still nevertheless completely self-absorbed and narcissistically involved with whether or not the makeup was right that day, narcissistically involved with taking over the bathroom in their small one bathroom apartment in the New York City area and really not able to relate better to the family. This is what the rest of them had been hoping. They thought, okay, it's going to go down, you're going to be happy, and we all just have to make this adjustment in our own thinking. We have to brainwash ourselves. And the truth is, it is a very broken feeling. Ren has had a few years now, going on 4 years post surgery, is not doing better socially, is not holding a full time job, mostly hangs out in bars. And I think he's trying to make friends, but I think the big disappointment, which is the way it is for most of them, is that they have the false idea inserted into their minds by those affirming therapists that straight guys are going to be attracted to them and they're going to have some Disney prince riding up on the white horse and sweeping them up into this, heterosexual romantic relationship, which of course could never have children naturally. And they're just finding that it was like buying the Brooklyn Bridge. I am going to try to record another one about a few other developments, a couple of trolls coming. I'm going to respond again about passing. This idea of passing is such a central idea to the cross-sex ideology, and you can't really truly pass as the opposite sex. So I'm going to go into some details about that in my next one. Thank you, everyone. We're up to somewhere in the 830s. Please consider writing to WDI. I'm going to try to get that zip code. It might, yeah, I'm going to try to get you that zip code in the next one. Thank you for everybody who's going back to the older videos that I've made. I see some, comments on those. And, my only message to the trolls who tell me to go and do some fatal thing that would be a very bad idea and would impact very badly on all the people around me and even emergency workers and things. I have no intention of doing that. What you have is a death veneration, and you are exhibiting that when you tell me to engage in it. The other thing is that, when you say you're a post-op cross-sex ideator, and you know it, you don't pass. And I don't know if you're coming here for sympathy or something, but uh, I maybe my information here is helpful to you, but I think that probably you need to seek out really appropriate professional help. It's not going to be easy because there are too many affirming therapists. And of course, if you regret your surgeries, you must at least write a letter saying that you regret this to the surgeons and to all of the affirmers who produced these letters that you took to the surgeons. So, yes, flowers. Be well in mind and body always.